guys, Jenny here. I hope everybody is doing well. I was going to ramble for a minute, but actually I want to jump right in so that anyone who watches these two videos, it's kind of a seamless transition. The disclaimers are in the video description. We are looking at the role-playing game called the Nephilim today, and I hope to finish this one because my mind is already on other projects. I've started a new project with which I hope I can push through on. I could definitely use some prayers these days, but we will get into that in a different video, hopefully an upload within the next 24 to 48 hours. So I wanted to save a little bit of this so we could go through it all and get kind of past the what's a role-playing game thing and all that, what a Nephilim is. So now that everybody's been introduced, let's go ahead and turn on the comments. And we will check out. We had stopped at the introduction and we learned about Nephilim and role-playing games as a whole, or as individual things. And now we're going to put them together. But I noticed that some of the content markers and the titles are actually in bold print. And I think that's worth paying attention to. So that's kind of where we stopped the other day. So we're going to dive right into the history of the Nephilim, okay? That guy likes to spam the channel now. I don't really know why. You will see that I will go from the darker view to the lighter view. Some of them are a little easier to pick up. It's obviously like a... they did copies from a book, from like the role-playing game book. And because with role-playing games, oftentimes you don't just get like a learner's manual, you get like a book, a user guide. So this looks like somebody made black and white copies, but it's awesome that they uploaded it on a PDF file and we are able to view a lot of this at no cost. Part of the Fair Use Act of 1976. All right, so let's take a look. I just want to show you guys. Tell me what you guys like better if you're watching on a computer screen, but I know a lot of you like just listen, which is fine for this channel. I probably should look into doing podcasts and seeing what that's like. I would love to do podcasts with like a partner. I have a couple people that I'd really love to work with, but I don't want to say anything yet because I don't want to jinx anything that I might be trying to put in the work. So prayers always accepted. So I can enlarge this, so that's what I'm going to do side by side here, or column by column rather. So this is the Nephilim, and it says up at the top, you'll see in those times when men grew and multiplied after man had left Eden, the Nephilim roamed the earth. Now I assume Eden is on earth. Kind of weird though, huh? How all the names of everything are changed all the time, and I think that's something we all really need to pay attention to. If you do like the content, please do consider giving the video itself a thumbs up. I have another channel that I've started, but I really want that to be as polished as possible while working from a cell phone device. So I'm going to get a ring light and all that for it, but it's called Striving to be a Saint. It is for people who are open-minded in regards to like the metaphysical aspect to theology and Christian doctrine as a whole, but you don't have to be a Christian to follow the channel. It's for anyone that's a deep seeker and that goes beyond the superficial. Diet will be mentioned a lot, as will daily conduct and things like that, and just looking at the lives of saints and sages and mystics in the past. So if you like that idea, let me know, and I'll do another post on the community channel so you guys can check out the new channel if you'd like. All right, so let's dive into it. Okay, it says role players are readers of fantasy. Now, we already looked at this, so we're going to go, I think that's right there, to the history of the Nephilim, okay? So I'm going to make this a little bigger. And there it says again, in those times when men had grew and multiplied after they had left Eden, the Nephilim roamed the earth. It's a little bigger. You see more of the background picture there. I would also probably, maybe that's like a poster or something that they send in the box game itself. All right, so This is the history of the Nephilim according to this game, which told us on the cover photo that it was not real. How many games do that? And remember, they lie. They're deceivers. They're tricksters. They lie about a whole lot of host of things. So you can never forget that. People think they can make these bargains and, well, that I'll be smarter and I'll outsmart this, that, or the other. I wouldn't advise that. There is a better way to go about this, but we can't talk about those things until you have a better idea of what the Nephilim are and how they operate. And I actually do think this gives us a unique, maybe not a unique, I do think this gives us a unique perspective on things, but I do think there's some truth in here. I'm not going to tell you what I believe is true. I think we all need to use our own discernment as far as that goes. So let's dive in. Among the first great secrets that a Nephilim learns is that history, as conceived by the majority of humans, is incorrect. Must be nice, right, to have somebody tell you that right off the jump. Like, hey, this isn't really what happened to human history. How strange. And we know that elitists, that like this is how that they are raised. They know that public schools lie. And yeah, I would go so far as to say the elitists do have bloodline of the Nephilim, but I don't think they're the pictures that we see on the TV. I don't think they would ever show anyone their real images. I think this is why a lot of them don't have their pictures taken, and they are really into that verse in the Bible about graven images. I don't think anyone actually understands the lengths of how deep that goes, but I think that's why they don't deal in those, is because they would be recognized then for what they are. Because, for example, there's a picture floating around of, oh my gosh, I forget his name, Beyonce's husband, Puff Daddy? Which one is he? I don't know. I forget. I don't follow that stuff for years now, so I just don't know. But anyways, there's a picture of him in like a black and white and out in front of some steps and he's got some nice swag on, got his bowler cap on, and he's outside in New York, I think. And it's obviously not a current picture, or at least we're not supposed to think it is. So I think there's a reason why certain groups of people are against having their picture taken, and I think they are the older souls, maybe too, that are here that know a little more than those of us who are still trying to figure things out. So most, perhaps all, historical events have their origins in the magical world of the Nephilim. Human history books only describe the surface of things, as lived by individuals and groups who are unable to comprehend their true implications or simply refuse to face the truth. And that's important too, is that things can be so micromanaged that the left arm doesn't know what the right arm is doing, even in the same labs and the same companies and the same offices, in the same groups, organizations, cults, churches. You will have oftentimes, you give this person, okay, you're going to print the pages of this book, and this group of people, okay, you're going to glue the pages of the book. But this person's only getting 20 pages, and you're only getting 20 pages, and one person might think it's a book about physics, right? And the next person might think, wow, that's a book about space travel. And the next person who actually puts the binding on and sees the full book sees that, wow, it's an encyclopedia, so it's about all of those things. Do you see what I mean? If you only know what you know, right? You don't know what else is out there. This is why it's important to be open-minded, but not... Hi, Dion. Much love. Hey, I got a video coming up, not a short, but like a shorter upload, and I'm going to use your, what do you even call them? Gematria translations. I'm going to use those that's in a screenshot video and just let people see that so they can, see how much work you put into it and how awesome you are, but also how your knowledge can be helpful to us. So if that's okay with you, just let me know. Furthermore, secret societies have fabricated false activities. Oh, awesome. I'm glad you're okay with it. I was just trying to touch base with you and make sure. I didn't want to step on toes or, anything weird. Oh, jeez. Thank me. Thank you for helping me all the time. These deceptions have been accepted as truth by most of humanity. Okay? And you have to realize the ones that are deceiving you, they have a motivation. There is an agenda there. They're trying to protect what they have or keep what they have. A blatant example is that of Darwin's theory of natural selection. Incurably curious, Darwin discovered Atlantean documents which hinted at the origins of human development. During one of his numerous travels, he was eventually initiated into a secret Masonic lodge, which aimed at bringing humans and Nephilim together. That's wild. And I've said this. I've said that I believe that if the Masonic, I don't even know how to say it, if they are wicked or whatever, if they are workers of iniquity, I believe that they are what they are, and they use the symbols that they use, and they know what they know about the universe because they were there with God when God was putting things together to a point. So I think that's who runs the Masonic lodges. And they will oftentimes pretend to feud in front of our faces. They pretend to have these big falling outs with people. My whole family was like that. You see it on TV with celebrities all the time. You saw it at, what was it, the Grammys with the slap across Will Smith's face. None of that is real in the aspect of it's all done. Every movement, every word is all done with intention. And I think this is why I've started writing, and I'm going to try and self-publish through Amazon. I see that other people do that. Channels like to pick at me. I'm not an uneducated dolt, but I'm not so intelligently educated, or I'm not so educated by the system that I think I know it all, right? So I think it's important that we stay open to things and that we stay and remain vigilant, right? And examine our hearts and make sure, okay, do I have a motivation in this? Am I emotionally invested in this hypothesis and how it turns out? And if you are emotionally invested, you need to be honest with yourself and any other subjects or people in the study with you. And I think that's important. I think those things are very important. That's where we're dealing with today. It's outright deception, but also you're seeing statistics that are way skewed. If you go to one source, it'll tell you the statistics are 70-30. If you go to another source, they'll tell you 70-30, but with the opposite results, with the opposite groups or whatever. That's big. That's a big problem right now, and I might do a video on that as well, talking about how statistics at this time, since at least 2017, have been greatly skewed. I literally research all the time, and since I've been off work, I'm on the computer a lot, or at least on the internet a lot. And I saw when certain things actually took place and things were changed. And it's a shame that people think, oh, well, we've been taken to another universe. We're on another Earth. And again, those are all just anything to put fear into people and take away your own sense of sovereignty. We have free will, okay? We don't have to be the victim, but we will be the victim until we learn how to wield our free will like the sword that it is, Good morning. Well, hello, greetings and salutations. Not evening here, but... So, there we go. A blatant example of that is Darwin's theory of natural selection. During one of his numerous travels, he was eventually initiated into the lodge, which aimed at bringing humans and Nephilim together, again, which I've talked about at great length. So here's some confirmation. I'm not telling you to believe it or not. I'm just telling you my personal experience and my meditations kind of jive with what is being said there. If you've been with the channel for a second, you would know that. When he learned the origins of humanity and the destiny of the Nephilim, Darwin destroyed the observations which had brought him to his enlightenment, afraid of betraying the Nephilim Lodge to the other hostile secret societies. Then, guided by Nephilim, Darwin built his coherent system of biological evolution to further obscure the track. This also provided a weapon which would be used to attack the Masons' sworn enemy, the Catholic Church. Why do they hate the Catholic Church so much? Well, let's look at this from a different point of view. If this is true, and if these Nephilim, which are the progeny of fallen angels and women, human women, if it's true that the Nephilim are the Masons, the Freemasons, which makes sense because all these old buildings, you don't see anybody able to do that today. And you see all these pictures of like guys on these high wires and stuff eating their lunch and whatnot. And it's like, okay, way back, in the 30s when we're going through the Depression, I don't know. It's just none of it looks real to me anymore. And I think a lot of our history has been fabricated to hide these beings. And I can understand that from one aspect. Man has wickedness in his heart. We see this all the time. At the same time, we know almost nothing about these beings other than what is written in books. They don't tell you who they are. They're very secretive. Is that because humans are dangerous, or is that because they want to be able to easier manipulate us? We have to look at this from both sides. And now, if you're with the Christian paradigm, to you, these guys are the bad guys or the workers of iniquity, in that type of scenario, okay? This does touch on some very personal points for me, so I'm going to try and leave my personal bias out of it. Other than, like I said, when something is on point and it just happens to also be personal, that's different. When I've meditated on things, I've brought all this to you guys. So it's really cool to see like some of it is not so far off. When he learned the origins of the human, okay, so he destroyed it, then guided by them, Darwin built his coherent system of biological evolution. This also provided a weapon which would be used against the Catholic Church. Thus, Darwin protected those whom he called the miracle of selection, the Nephilim. Now, are they a miracle? Are they a miracle? What do you guys think? I don't know how to feel. And that's the problem right now is that I'm pretty sure the ones who are these beings know that they are, or they've been told that they are, right? But not all of them. I'm sure that some of us, his story, not ours, I agree. Abomination. I agree. Here's the thing. Here's my problem, and I guess maybe this comes from the female nurturing, mothering aspect of myself. Because you kind of can't separate your gender from this experience. It forms your entire experience. And if you're not operating in the way in which you were made to operate, you're going to live a fallacy, a false, non-genuine, disingenuine life. And you're not going to operate or function in the manner that you were supposed to. So you're not going to receive all the blessings that you're supposed to either. But in a case like this, where the Nephilim didn't have a choice, they were just born, and the women didn't always have a choice either. Because again, these things are tricksters. They took the wives of whom they chose. They took whichever ones they wanted, who already had a family established, so they could sneak right in, get the man to give up his sovereignty over himself as at the head of the household, and they could sneak right in, right? Just like that other verse says, he snuck in while those were asleep, and he sowed these weeds in here. The women didn't know either. And I think that's a very important part to make, and that touches on something very personal for me, and I will not change my stance on that. I don't care who says what. I know certain things that I know not just from reading and research, but because of personal experience. And I promised all of you a long time ago that I will bring you truth as I know it, see it, and experience it. And if you ask me a question I don't have the answer for, I will definitely go out there and search for it till I find it for you, or until I find a reason to why I can't find the answer. So please know that. Each Nephilim knows the story of its origin. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think we're also mixed at this point. But I do believe this is why certain organizations, again, okay, so the ones who are interested in all this, let's put this, visualize this for me, if you will. You've got the white jackets, right? Those are your experts. You've got the blue jackets. Those are your police peacekeepers, right? You've got the safety jackets, the road working construction ones. They like the street theater, also called Glowies by Terry Davis. I say CIA because he said Glowies was CIA. So you've got all these people out there in uniforms, right? And the ones who are in the white coats, these expert ones. But how do I say this? If you wanted to control the flow of information, you would have your people in every aspect of society. This is why I said in this area, I'm like, there's nothing, I cannot move. If someone wants to erase me and delete me digitally, I don't consent to it, but they can do it probably, because there is family in every aspect of the local government around here. And I just never, it never mattered to me before. I never paid attention to it, right? But once you realize people are your enemies and that they're your foes and no longer your friends, it kind of puts a different puts a different coloring to things. And I was very naive, and I don't want anyone else to go through the things that I've went through simply because you were naive, you weren't educated, and you made bad choices because you didn't have enough information. Yes, I made the choices. Yes, I sinned. That was me. At the same time, we're told not to get in each other's way, not to be stumbling blocks. We are each accountable for ourselves, but also for what we do to others if we push them to fall. And I can't say that enough, guys. The only way through this problem that we are at, the reason why we're seeing society on like this 4-year pause, is because God is long-suffering and patient, and he wants to give everybody time to make a willing, consensual choice. And a lot of people can't do that because they don't we don't have all the information. That's why some of this is a great leap of faith for us. That these beings, they should be ashamed of themselves. How easy is it for an adult to beat a child when you have more information and more life experience? Just like they say, like stealing candy from a baby. How can you feel successful or good about your ventures when you step on other people and the only reason you're able to win or beat them is because you simply have more information? I think that needs to change, and that's why I do this. And that's why I refer you to channels like Dion's and others out there, to deeper conversations with Chad. Michelle Gibson, I shared her videos when she first came out, autodidactic. Some of them I think are on the other team. I know this. I can't tell you how I know this, but I know this. But again, not everyone who is on the other team is against us either. And this is very convoluted. So this is why I say don't make any quick, hasty judgments, okay? So each Nephilim knows the story of its origin, for it has learned it during its various incarnations step by step. Okay, so this is saying that it keeps and retains its memory throughout each incarnation. Their controlled ops do share some truth discernment as required. Right, exactly. And that's the thing. They only really have to lie, it seems, like about one thing. Like if you notice, every church denomination has one difference in it. They each have a different error, so that no matter what church you go to, you're going to be led astray because of that one error. But each denomination has a different error. So you might go over here to the Baptists and think, okay, they've got it. You know, they're doing this and this is what I agree with. But they're missing a lot, right? They're missing Mary and everything else and the saints and all of this. So it's a very convoluted, complex problem that we have here today. Thank you, Dion. But yes, just because somebody, I think, bloodline, if you look at my numbers, for example, if I asked Dion to look at my numbers, right? I'm a Capricorn. Right there, I'm a beast or a goat, right? I've got the horns of the goat. My last name is Javaudan. In French, that means wolfman or beast, specifically. So that's great. And my birthday is a little weird. So if you look at all these things, I mean, I look like I'm on the other team on paper, but I'm not, right? I'm a Capricorn too, LOL. No wonder we're like always in sync with the stuff we're looking into. You in your arena and me in mine, of course, but that's pretty cool. I love how the Holy Spirit works. The true Holy Spirit. It's amazing to me. But I don't think that just because, for example, someone doesn't know their bloodline, right? And they maybe have some Nephilim in them, I don't necessarily think that makes them wicked. Now, I could be wrong. I don't know it all, right? I prefer the glass being half full. I prefer finding the silver lining. And we're not going to get through this time without love and forgiveness both. We're just not. We're not going to be... Humanity as a whole, as a collective, cannot evolve anymore unless we get past our like holding a grudge and this bile or this venom that's kind of seeped into society, the black goo stuff. I talk about this a lot. Um, we can't move forward and evolve further, spiritually speaking, until we get rid of old baggage. And really all that requires is letting it go and saying, I forgive you. The hard thing with that, okay? I forgive the ones who did what they did to me. The problem is again, there's no remorse. Now you could say number one, and I hate Dateline for this, right? Because they'll be like, that person's been in jail for 40 years and they're still such a narcissist that they can't admit what they did. Yeah, or they're just innocent. And we're putting away innocent people because your media is stirring up these mob mentalities in people. And when you get into a mob mentality, you can forget about skills like critical thinking. That goes out the window. There is no critical thinking with mob mentality. You're too close together at that point that you become a temporary hive mind. And I think it has a lot to do with physics, with being physically, like the crowds for shopping with Black Friday, like we used to see. I think people, when you boil water, right? The act of putting the water over a flame, it's getting warmer. So you're getting these molecules, they're getting closer together and they're swelling, right? Things swell in the heat, and then they're bouncing off each other in chaos. And I think that's what happens with people when there's too large of a group or a group that has a really low vibration, like you saw at the Travis Scott concert. All of these things, they go together, and I believe that we can change them. I believe that we can change the story. I don't think the story is necessarily in stone, because if you read the Bible and you're a person who goes with like the book of Revelation, right? There's a lot that's not said there. And that's to give God the freedom to work, right? Because if he's committed to something, if somebody said God said or did something, he's then committed. Unless, he's going to prove that person a false prophet completely and not a lover of God. And then that's a whole different story. But I hope you get what I'm saying is this isn't so black and white as we can look at these ones on one side and these ones on another and say good, bad. Like it's not going to work that way. It's not working that way. And if you want to know why your life isn't going anywhere, it's because we have not actively participated in our own spiritual evolution, redemption, salvation, and ascension. You have to be an active participant. You can't just let Christ do all the work I know that's what churches say. I know they say that. But what justice is there in somebody who lives their life purposely, okay, intentionally, with as much debauchery and pleasure and fulfillment and just gluttony and slothfulness as possible, and then on their deathbed they say, well, I'm going to accept Christ now. That's false. And like I've talked to people that think they're going to do this, like that's okay. You can't trick yourself. One of the people you have to answer to at the end is you. So if you've lied to yourself, do you get it yet? Like you are one of your own judges. Your two eyes are your two personal witnesses to everything that you do in this life. They are also the eyes that your maker can look through from time to time and know what you're doing. Everyone is attributing this to targeted individual electronic harassment. I'm not saying that is not real. So please don't put words in my mouth, because again, we have a real big problem with extremes, and nobody can be the voice of reason and say, hey, this is the middle. I mean, if people want to bash me, they can. They want to make the videos, they will, they can, they do. I don't personally care about that. What I care about is people calming down enough to learn something, so that we can be not just active participants in our own lives, in our own soul journey, but so that we can be better brothers and sisters to one another. I probably lost everybody. I seem to, people don't want to hear good news. They don't want to hear the good news. They want to hear about all the train wrecks. I mean, I was telling somebody about the news not too long ago, and the person actually asked me, like, the only question they had was, how many people died? If you think that's normal, if you think that's a normal way to be, you're a part of the problem. And some of us have realized that we were a part of the problem and we started making little changes. I might not be able to change the world, but I can sure do my best to change my little corner of it, the corners that I go to of it. And if we're all doing that within and then expressing that outwardly through our actions and our deeds practically each day, picking up trash, picking up litter when we have the time, other people's litter, who cares if you did it or not? These are all small ways. But anyway, just because one person is on one side, the other person is on the other, that doesn't necessarily mean good or bad, okay? So we can't do, at least I don't do that on this channel. So, centuries of war have destroyed vast sources of ancient knowledge. We know this. That's why the Vatican has it. What do you think would happen if they opened up the doors and said, okay, everybody come look? It would, anything that they have would be destroyed because people en masse are moronic. And I'm a part of the human race, obviously. I'm here with y'all. I don't feel like I'm part of it anymore. And it's not people say, oh, well, you're just detached and, oh, it's DID. Let's not do that on this channel at all. We're not doctors. We're not here to diagnose anybody. But I will tell you that it has nothing to do with my circumstances, but everything to do with things outside of myself and just observing other people's behavior. I don't feel like I just don't feel a part of whatever people are feeling right now. I mean, everywhere you look, there's plastic surgery and there's nightmares. Allegedly, these celebrities are getting these things reversed, but they look bad. Like, I don't know what's going on with everybody all at the same time, but they look really bad. And I don't like, do they all go to the same plastic surgeon? They didn't see the first person and say, okay, let's not go to this person anymore. And they're all different ages. And they're both male and female. Why is that? What's going on? Are people's insides finally being expressed on their outside? I think that's part of it. I also think there's a big chunk of the population missing and nobody noticed because we stare at screens all day. Watch some of these videos of some of the traveling YouTubers and you tell me why the streets are so empty. Because I just want to know. I really want to know. Are they fake? Are they making movies in those empty cities over in China? I think those are used, but not for that. We've lost a great number of people. And very few left are what was it in Noah's time? 8 people? God, there's a clue there. There's like a breadcrumb there, and I can't seem to pull it out of that story. So, let's see. This fragment of history makes it hard for them to compile the truth properly. We have selected the version given below because it's the most complete, concise, and modern. It's not always best to go with the modern version of anything. It is also an overview, useful to newcomers. This version was translated into English in 1994 by, oh my gosh, shut up, Francis, do you see his last name? Hades. Based on a draft by the Duke of St. Armand, he copied it from an anonymous scribed French parchment dated to the 17th century. Is anyone here? Because I can weave this into something. Okay, so I just told you how my maiden name means Wolfman in France. It's actually a town. It's a geographical place. It's a real place in France where things got so bad, like there were women and children found, the corpses of women and children were found in this region. Allegedly, it was a beast. They called it a beast, they called it a wolfman, and the Pope himself sent people after this beast. Long pause. I'm a part of the Catholic Church, okay? Now this is where, again, we are at conflict with our own selves, and a lot of people don't even realize it. And I told you, like, oh, you know, I'm a Capricorn, so I've got the horns, and my last name means beast. So if anyone wanted to, they could say on paper, like, I'm on that other side. But it's an area in France. And so anytime Masons in France are brought up, because if you didn't know, I didn't know this. Like, my family always had reunions, and we celebrated Bastille Day. But I guess that was like a Freemasonic revolt, and I didn't know that. And my dad, like, my whole family it was a thing. Like, we celebrated it. It was the day we were freed, I guess. I don't know. So again, these groups, they start out with admirable intentions, we're told, or it seems, and then these things kind of get messed up. And another thing, like Freemasons, allegedly, you can't have a deity. You can believe in a maker, but you can't have no one else. There can't be no Buddha. There can't be no Christ. Actually, I've heard Buddha and Muhammad are okay, but you can't have Christ. So again, you have these drops, these driplets of these leaks of information coming out, right? The problem is the people, you have one that is purposeful disinformation, like Dion told us a little bit ago. They are purposely going to tell you lies just to get you away from the truth. So you've got that happening, right? It's almost like you're standing in the street trying to stand firm. You're peacefully protesting, and they come up to you with one of them big hoses, and like you're just constantly from side to side being beat down by by the hose, and that's how it feels with this information sometimes. But I think it's interesting to note that there's a lot of Freemasonic stuff happening in France, but that area is also where the Catholic Church was born, the first. And again, when I say that I was raised that way, I was raised that way. I understand the catechism. I have a special affinity for the sacraments themselves. I believe that the Catholics and the Muslims are very reverent when it comes to the Maker. And I think that's important. I think women especially have forgotten that what femininity really is, and that it's okay to be that way. Perfect analogy. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. So sometimes, this stuff gets so convoluted when you start to look at it. Let's not make any base judgments, okay? When I use the word base, it's a bad thing. I'm like, really, when I use base, it's like, that's so base, as in that's lower level thinking, that's lower frequency, that's like down with the demonic, right? Muck and yuck. When I use base, it's a bad thing. I don't know how it became good. I don't know. I don't pay attention. I know this world, I went through some type of looking glass a couple of years ago, and I just want to go back home at this point. You definitely become contrite of heart and penitent for your past life or the ways that you were living your life when things are taken away from you. There is something to be said about karma, or as Christians call it, consequences to your actions. So no, nobody can just say, oh, I'm going to live my life like a piece of crap. Then on my deathbed, I'm going to say, hey, God, what's up? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. If you ain't heard from somebody in 30 years, are you going to let them in your home? I'm not saying that like God's different. He's a parent, so. But I'm just using that to kind of show people there's always another way to look at things. So it's telling us, and it tells us who he is, of course. That one claims to have been a translation from the original, which was written in Enochian during the 2nd century AD by Simeon Bar Yochai, the master of Kabbalah. It is untitled, but like Babylonian manuscripts, has been given a title made up of its opening lines. Before all. Before all. So this is the next part of, this is the actual story starting. Okay. Oh my gosh. I want you guys to be able to read along if you want. Before all, the hurly-burly, the chaos, in the unknown void, the forces of the universe took the shape which we call the ether, and concentrated themselves to form the guides of our spirits, the stars. In our local system, the ethers congealed themselves in a sacred spot, the axis of the world, and formed the guide of our heart, the sun. Hold, please. What time is it? So I can timestamp this, 38:48. So somebody commented, a new viewer, I want to say his name's Trevor, I think, and he gave us some really good information. I'm going to do a whole video on comments, and it's not going to be like everybody else's. It's going to be good comments. And as much as I like Brett Cooper, I'm kind of angry at her because I've been saying that since 2017 about the comment section being like the place to learn things. So just FYI to put that out there. It is an excellent place to learn things. And Trevor had shared with us something that reminded me. Now, is Eden Earth, or is Eden a place in Earth? I actually want to say it is. I think I know where it's at. I'm not going to say the location right now because as it stands, we can't get there. Let me preface this by saying, if this is a game, okay, if God said, my children need to learn. They're going to go in this playground area called the earth before they're let back into Eden, so they can learn the rules. This is their sandbox game, basically. If you've ever played a video game, you know what a sandbox video game is. So this is their game, right? This is their training ground. This is their area where they're going to learn things. But it's outside of Eden, right? So we're actually outside of Eden right now in what is called Earth, okay? Now, if we were to go back through the gate, allegedly, there are 4 rivers, only 4, and they all meet up or stem from the center of Eden. And if you look at some older maps, you can determine what place that is. Let me also say, if I was God, okay, and if I can think of this, I know God already thought of it, of course, right? So if we're in a sandbox video game, and this is basically our training ground, how do I say this? Hold please. If this is our training ground, right? And God is saying, this is where you're going to learn how to properly function as a family or whatever, what have you, with your differences and all that. You got to learn to shake hands and walk away, forgive, love. Those are the 2 main things that we got to learn how to do. I kind of forgot where I was going with that. Jeez. Video game, Eden, the 4 rivers that lead outside of Eden. Oh, so if God put us in a place and said, okay, I believe, okay, this is what I believe. This is just a theory. That once you're ready, right? Once you've learned whatever it is you're supposed to learn, that is when you quote unquote die in this earth region. But I think it's all the same. I think it all can be accessed, right? I don't know if you want to use portals. But I don't know with Eden though. Eden seems like it's tangible to me. And I don't know if that's just because I'm so far out of society now and I walk so much in the spirit, or if it's genuinely like a physicality. But I know that if I put my children in this testing ground, this training ground, and that there was an exit to the matrix, for example, everyone would have access to the key. It wouldn't matter where you were physically dropped in the beginning of the game. Let me say that again. If God is just, and we know that he is, and justice is basically fairness, right? Equality. There has to be give and take. Entropy, whatever you want to call it. 88, flux capacitor. All that stuff goes together. So if God tossed his children down here into this training ground, right? And he said, you got to figure out where the exit is. He's not going to put Samantha Joe down the block right next to it, and I'm 200 miles away from it, and I don't drive, or I don't have access to a car, or maybe people get in my way and they don't let me physically walk there. I don't think God is going to do that. If there's an exit, everyone has a key, or the potential to have the key. And I believe the key is within you. It is inside of you. Not physically. Don't go saying that I'm condoning any type of weirdness. The key is within you. Okay? We'll get to the exit a little further on when we get past this, if I can ever get past it. Okay, so it says, in our local system, the ethers congealed themselves in a sacred spot, the axis of the world, and formed the guide of our heart, the sun. The forces of our universe beamed in turn from the sun and materialized into 5 celestial bodies called planets. Okay? I think that's very interesting that if you remove the T, it just says planes. And the T is the shape of a cross. You also have earth. It could be ear, right? Listen, ear. This gets really deep with the words. If you want to play at that, we could do that all day long. Here called by their Latin names Mercury, Venus, Luna, Mars, and Jupiter. Each planet began then to... Why would it start with just 5? That's not an important number in anything as far as I know. Dion would know more about that, of course. Act as a prism and to focus the ethers of the sun on a second magical point. They mingled to form the 7th celestial body of our universe, Earth. Well, that's a beautiful way to put that. That's very poetic. Let me read that over again real quick. The forces of our universe beamed in turn from the sun and materialized into 5 celestial bodies called planets, here called by their Latin names: Mercury, Venus, Luna, Mars, and Jupiter. Each planet began then to act as a prism. We know what light prisms are. We talk about that a lot. And to focus the ethers of the sun on a second magical point. There they mingled to form the 7th celestial body of our universe, Earth. Look at that, though. What did they just do? Did you catch it? And this is what I say by pay attention. And paying attention just means be vigilant. Who's here? Do you see this? There they mingled to form the 7th celestial body of what? Our universe. Wait a second. So you mean to tell me this game that was made allegedly in 1994, 1995, which is the year I moved to Ohio. This stuff is so bizarre. It's like all relative to me. We call universe is our system of planets, plural. But here in this game, they're calling the whole universe Earth. What's hidden there? What's not being said? They mingled to form the 7th celestial body of our universe. Oh, okay, I get it. The 7th celestial body. That's the other clue too, is body. Okay? Look at all these things that they're relating to planets, and then look at yourself. Okay? And this is why each demon has a domain, and those domains are often, you can relate them to your body, because as above, so below is true. Yeah, you just said it. See what I mean? Are you like my AI? Are you like my, what do they call it, replica? That's so funny. Excuse me. Okay, so for a long time, the forces mingled without effect, but gradually they came into conjunction and formed the center of the earth, the Grail, a container of all physical forces. The Grail is so formed that it imprisons each part of the ether and transforms it into a magic field which circulate the earth. Huh. But gradually they came into conjunction and formed the center of the earth. Holy wowzers. I gotta write that down. I gotta take a note because I'm gonna look at, I got all kind of books here and I like physical books, but I gotta write that down. So hang on. Yes, I'm oftentimes like the absent-minded professor. If you live near me or with me, my mind doesn't stop. Which the people who live with me aren't always in accordance with, and they're not always happy about, but it is what it is. Okay, I gotta write this down because I am actually making a lot of notes again for some very serious videos I'd like to do. One of them being what I was just talking about, how each domain of a demon is connected to a part of your body for physical health and well-being. But I am not a doctor. No part of this is medical nor legal advice. Thank you, John Francis. That's nice of you. I was wondering with the feud going on if Francis was... Oh, I never say his name right. Pranchot, the other guy you were making the videos about. I was actually subbed to him too, and he has some wisdom there about him, but I don't know. I don't trust many people these days. That dude, yeah. That dude. All right, I got to write this down because the Grail equals a place on Earth. Ah, lead pencils, I tell you. Oh, jeez, again? Gina Marie Colvin, you watch her? Very absurd lady. I've never heard of her. Why would I watch her if she's absurd? Do you think I should watch her? I'm not absurd enough? I'm teasing you. Okay, so I had to write that down real quick because I'm actually working on a couple projects. I would like you to do my numbers and stuff, but I'm afraid to even ask you because I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, you're an agent, because I'm definitely not one of those. But you can have my information if you want to do my numbers ever. I'm just afraid, like I said, I'll end up in a video. Okay, so For a long time, the forces mingled without effect, but gradually they came into conjunction and formed the center of the earth, which is called the Grail. Okay, so if we go back to that, what is that diagram? Torus field. So the Grail, hold please, I gotta do this or I'll forget. T. Nah, you a real one, Jen. That's right. Okay, so this is the Torus field. I know a lot of information. It's just funny I'm still as dumb as I am. Okay, so which is a good one to show you guys? I want you to actually see the center. So if you see the center, right, the Earth is a planet. What else is it? What else do we call these things? Celestial bodies, right? So your body is at the center of a torrid field, which is also at the center of the Earth, which is also, if you look at a pregnant woman's belly, it also matches the exact same way that the Earth is set up, with the layers, the protective layers around the baby would act as the crust in the mantle of the Earth. And then if you look at the baby, you can go from an Earth to a human body, to a pregnant human body, a fetus in vitro, okay? And then you can take that and even parallel it even smaller, because you can take the fetus and fit it into the human ear, which tells you where the pressure point for your pineal gland is. I know that's a lot. I know I just went at a lot of information, but this is what a torrid field is. This is the middle of your body. So imagine this is the Earth, okay? For a second, this is the Earth. Your body's in the middle of it. But this is the Earth, and the Earth, we've been told it has 2 poles, but the poles are hollow. Nothing in there. They're fields like this dude, right? That is the center of the Earth, okay? So what would you have at the top and the bottom of those things? The North Pole and the South Pole. The problem I'm having, and I'm going to have to draw it out for you guys because there's no other way to do this. I don't know what to search to find an image to relate to you guys, but I feel this is a good way to learn, is through visuals and imagery. When you read a book, you visualize them in your head, or at least you should be, and that helps you to understand. That's why I learned so much about Jesus that they're not teaching, is by simply looking and visualizing things that he's doing in my mind as he's doing them. And I'm like, wait a second, this dude isn't observing any of this Jewish stuff like they say he is. He's not eating animals. He's not sacrificing animals. He's not doing any of those things. But the churches tell you he did or will or whatever. So what I think is, if you look at the top, right, the top of the head, that would be the, can I do Earth torrid field? There we go. Okay, so this is basically, are you going to show me one that has the actual thing? That kind of shows it on the left there. Not truly, but kind of. I mean, the best example is like something like this, but it shows you where it's at in nature, and you get the golden rule, you get the Fibonacci, all that stuff goes together. So as I was saying yesterday about these things paralleling outwardly, like a ripple in water, that is absolutely what happens with words, with stories, with characters. You even see the Greek characters, the Greek souls. The stories are told in the heavens too. The stars walk to their stories. And their constellations are named after the people that were on Earth. So as above, so below is a true statement. Okay, so by its nature, Luna opposed itself directly to the pure forces of the sun, and, thanks to their interactions, the earliest life forms were born. Over innumerable years, life developed, changed, grew, and multiplied. After a measurable time, one creature, born of the fields of the moon, was able to dominate the other life forms. It was the coming of the great saurians, the dinosaurs. Hold, please. I want to also say that if you look at, where'd it go? Born of the fields of the moon. I forget which language it is. I don't know if they'll touch on it here, but moon was also known as sin. The word sin, right? And when we think of sin, people get too scared. Condemnation, I don't think human beings need that anymore. I mean, I'm just going to be really honest. We don't need beat down anymore. We also don't need praise for doing the wrong things. We just need to be diplomatic with ourselves and each other and say, all right, this is what's wrong. Let's diagnose the problems together. Now let's go at them and fix them. But it needs to be in a way where everybody quits taking things personally, because we're never going to get past this if we don't start forgiving and doing all things from love. All things. If you don't know natural law, or you're worried you're going to mess up a decision because you don't want to disrupt, which is a good idea at this point especially, you don't want to disrupt any natural law in your vicinity so that doesn't flash back on you or your family. Do all things from love. That was Christ's message. That's it. You have all these people making all this money. He's not going to come back here and give the, like, do you think he's going to come back and thank them? That's not what's going to happen. He's not going to, I wouldn't be happy if this is how it looked after I left. And I was like, man, I left you guys for just a little bit. I had to get some stuff straight up with Dad. And this is what I come back to. Everybody's fighting and disagreeing. So, I don't know. So, that's how it says life started. So, now we're going to go to, it says, the cycle of Mu is what they're calling this. The Saurians venerated the field of the moon, drawing magical energy from it. This is the dinosaurs. They created a great civilization, somber and terrifying to human minds. They lived in vast cathedral forests that were also their meeting centers. They developed mystical tools so that their thoughts, sharpened by the field of the moon, replaced both speech and tools. They dedicated religions to the moon. They terraformed, conducted philosophical debates, and traveled mentally to other planets, astral projection. They did everything which they could imagine until at last they waged interminable wars on each other for entertainment. Again, if you are eternal and you know this, for some beings that could cause distress and it could leave them morose, and then they lash out, harming not just themselves, but whatever or whoever is around them. There's a reason we're in the death simulation right now, and I believe the death part is a simulation. I don't think it's legit. I don't think it's quote-unquote real. I don't think it's permanent. And why don't I think that? Because everything they tell us is a lie. And that's the one thing they use to push fear into us the most, is death. You could die. Your children could die. You better do this. You better do this. Or, I'm not telling you what to do, but if you don't do this, then you know, somebody will die. What is wrong? Like what is wrong as a society that we want to make a few extra bucks, so we're actually telling people these things? I don't think it's all humans. I think these are the ones who are anti-human. The whole anti-human agenda that's out there, I don't think obviously started with human beings, but I do believe human beings are involved in it. I get mad at humans every day, at least 20 times a day. Like, man, we're dumb. Man, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? You know? But that don't mean I'm hopeless. Again, the glass has to be half full, gang, or we're not going to get through this. Hey, lady, nice to see you. I have a video to check out of yours as well. Oh, sorry about that, Dion. And I mentioned you again, too, I think. So let's continue. New life forms had evolved at their expense. The rays of the sun continued their slow process upon these new life forms, which would, much later, give birth to human beings. During this period, the first Nephilim were formed. They were pure spirits without physical bodies, under the influence of the 5 magical fields. Okay, so it looks like right here, I don't know where they're going to go with this. I mean, they said in the beginning that they went with the Genesis thing, but I guess they're trying to say that Nephilim are angelic. I don't know, and that's not what we are told. Excuse me, I had to get a little drink there. That's not what we are told, so let's continue. Again, as I said, please use discernment. This is sold as a game. The whole point is to be aware of what's out there and to empower you, and I hate the way that word is overused and oversold these days, but the goal is to empower you so that hopefully, what time is it? Sorry, guys. My phone wasn't charged and I didn't want it to die. The goal is, though, is to empower people on this channel with their own free will and agency, and to start wielding that as the sword of the Spirit that it's meant to be. I choose to give my free will back to the Lord, or at least to try and pay attention to the Lord and go with the choices that He would actually make for me, because I believe that my Maker knows what's best for me. Because when I'm left to my own devices, I mess things up bad. But that's my choice. I'm not telling you to do that, but I am telling you that you do have a choice. You do have a choice. All these people, oh, we didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. And the human body can go 40 days without food, so don't tell me, oh, I had to feed my kids, so I capitulated. You capitulated because you just weren't that firm in your stance. And there's nothing that I'm saying that's wrong with the choices you guys make. I just want you to know you have a choice. You have a choice. You are free-willed. You are sovereign. Yes, our God is sovereign, but so are we. That is the gift we are given. So is there any viewers that you've reached where they are understanding how the occult hides in games? I don't know what you mean. So is there any viewers that you've reached where they are understanding? Oh, that's why I do this. Allegedly, people are waking up to it more now. I honestly don't, most people don't care. They just don't care. And they're not going to see that it brings chaos into their lives until it's already happened, like with me. Like my spouse, he literally, and this is why I say these people had this plan for a long time. Years ago, almost 10 years ago, he literally asked me, like, hey, do you think, he used to watch, what is that called? The Prophecy Club. He used to watch that, my spouse, and he's not religious. And I thought, I left him alone. I was like, oh my God, he's finding God. And he watched Israeli news. I have a real big problem with that channel. I know a lot of people like it. Dude looks exactly like my brother-in-law, and you know how I feel about all that. I think these people are playing multiple parts, and I think they do it purposely. That's why they have the quote-unquote power over us that they have, is because that person's not just a judge. They're also a lawyer and a, whatever CEO, right? There's a lot of conflicts of interest happening. But my spouse actually asked me questions like that. Do you think Pokemon is evil or wicked? And this is before I was woke up. I was supporting the family. I didn't know what he was getting at that time. I was like, again, it was like 20 years ago almost. It's 2012, actually. 2011, 2012. And he asked me, what do you think about, Yu-Gi-Oh cards? How do you feel about Pokemon? Do you think D&D is of the devil? And I was like, no, I grew up playing all that stuff. And again, mind you, I was not consensually saved at that point, or whatever you want to call it. I was fallen away, gone astray, way far away at that point. Not even as bad as some people out there. I just was worldly, I was secular. And I said, no, they're just games, right? They're just games. Now looking back, I can't even wish that I wasn't that stupid, because I was just a young girl. And honestly, again, this is where we are responsible for how we influence other people. Had my mother and father managed me the way they should have and brought me up the way they should have, or at least protected me from certain things, I would have never moved out at the young age. Like, I didn't even know how to do laundry when I moved out. I just knew how to work. That's all I knew how to do. I didn't know anything else. That's it. Anything that I learned from school, that's what I knew. I also knew what my mother taught me, which was nothing, purposely. Again, guys, we're living in the Matrix. This is the Matrix. A lot of women, even currently today, how do I say this? Are arranged in certain marriages, but they're not told about it, or they can't see it. It's manipulated into their lives. Because we still have men who want these gifts that the fallen ones give them. And the fallen ones are in all these fields. They're the experts. They're the ones that wear the white coats. They're the ones that wear the black judge robes. These are the Nephilim. And that's why they're so powerful at this time, is because, number one, they run a few different jobs. Each one is playing a few different parts. They don't tell. They're sworn to secrecy. But they tell you in their own way if you watch and you pay attention. This is why I do this. Corinthians 12 asked me, have you reached anyone about any of this yet? I don't know, man. I've been doing this almost 4 years, 3.5 years. Have I reached anyone? I don't know. My first channel I nuked just because I didn't want the problem anymore. And I wanted to see, I was doing a little experiment and I was right. The second I nuked the channel, in real life again, you could almost physically feel people, right? Like when they're, I don't know, when you're not around people for a while, you're very sensitive to certain things and your intuition starts working again. And again, some time away by yourself, isolation in this society is not a bad thing because it reminds you of who you are. What kind of ice cream do you like? What's your favorite color? Do you read this because your friends want you to read it or because you want to read it? I would love for people to choose Christ, but not just because you want to fit in or be like, your family or your friends or whatever have you. But I'd tell you the same thing about wickedness. Don't do things just because you don't want to be alone. Because you're going to end up alone anyway. Especially if you're someone that's trying to fit in, you're never going to be there. But you shouldn't want to either. Because you are special. And you are beloved. That is why I do this. Have I reached anyone? I don't know. But it's definitely not for lack of trying. This stuff is personally in my life. This is not just me researching for you. This is my personal experience that I'm trying to say, hey, you can listen to whatever professor or expert you want to listen to, but they want to sell you books. I might be just now starting to write. I'm not trying to sell you nothing. I genuinely just want people to know that they have a choice. Even if they don't make the right choice, to at least know that they have a choice and to understand that the deck was already set against most of us. They say, oh, everyone has a chance here. Even the lowliest person. No, they can't. No, they can't. Go look at Obama. Go look at these people's histories who said that they were underdogs and came from nothing. That's not true. They've went to the best universities. That's why they have the opportunities that they have. And they've been able to network and rub elbows with big people. That's why they have the connections that they have. We have been meek in almost everything to the point that it's now cost us more than it's earned us. I'm a pacifist. I do not condone violence. That is not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about learn new skills. Learn how to feed yourself. Learn how to grow food. Understand that the human body does not need to eat 3 times a day to live. You just don't. You might like to, especially now that you're addicted to it. But we don't need that. Any of these things that they tell us, none of it's true. None of it. And it's so hard to know, to just know certain things. And you can't talk about it to anybody because nobody will understand. You guys think that this channel is weird to begin with. You think that my life is weird to begin with. Imagine the things that I don't tell you, that I don't talk about on the channel. We were told smoking is bad for you. Could be the opposite be true. That's so funny you say that. I was reading a story, and I read folklore a lot just because there's truth in it. But I also read the freaking etymology dictionary a lot because I'm a geek. So, when I say I read a lot, I read a lot. When we are born again in Christ, they have no power of a child of God. Jesus' blood covers us and gave us authority to cast out demons. Very true. Oh, Holy Spirit opens the eyes of people. You can't blame yourself. Jesus calls us according to when we are ready. Absolutely. But you asked a question, so I wanted to try and answer it appropriately, with... You are absolutely right about Christ, but I'm not getting into that in this video. That is going to be in the next consent video. That's kind of why I want to get through this, so that I can get to the next consent video and people can understand why I'm bringing in certain words or topics that I'm bringing in. This is just to build people's vocabulary and their discernment, basically. And to say, okay, wow, this stuff's out there and they're not hiding it. It says the Saurians venerated the field of the moon, drawing magical energy from it. Now, it says that, where was it? That the Nephilims were just, during this period, the first Nephilim were formed. And it says they just came into being. They had no focus, intention, or consciousness. The Saurians reach a stage where the ruling... See, I love how they don't bring God into this at all, which is messed up because even the Freemasons bring in the big G God. But this game isn't bringing in the God. They're just saying ethers mixed and this happened. Well, who mixed the ethers? I mean, I get it. I understand, like, this is like an agnostic type of view, is where God is there. There's something happening, but he's not relatable to us, which I understand in certain aspects. Like, you have that verse that says God is not a respecter of persons, because I believe in one aspect, God is pure energy, and either your energy can be in harmony with that or it can't. And again, I think that gets into the science of it, and I personally think science and religion can go together. But I'm strange. I'm not like most people. Let's see. They did everything which they could imagine until at last they waged interminable wars on each other for entertainment. But they were not omniscient. Their vast years of rule, the manageable power of the moon fields, and their dedication to material pleasure conspired to blind them. New life forms had evolved at their expense. The rays of the sun continued their slow process upon these new life forms, which would, much later, give birth to human beings. See, that's half of what's wrong with us today, is there, oh, the sun will hurt you, the sun will hurt. Do you really think God would make a sun that's going to hurt you? Now, if you read the Bible, you know where true illness and death come from. And it's not the sun. It's not the sun. Okay? Those things are good for our physical health. You need the sun. You need the rays of the sun. If you do gematria on God, it comes out as ray, I think. That was one of the studies I did, but again, Dion's the master at the numbers. He has a better calculator tool than I have. The one that I use, I found a couple different ones now, and I don't understand how to use the one he uses. So I would love to just be able to collab. I could give him words. He could give me numbers. It would be great. Anyways, there's my little pitch to Dion. They lived in vast cathedrals, did these things, then they got bored, so they had wars, which is just wonderful. During this period of time, the Nephilim were formed. They were pure spirit without physical bodies under the influence of these 5 fields. They had no focus, attention, or consciousness. That'd be awesome. I would be happy anytime to do a collab with you. Or to, just like I said, feed you some words and have you just do a video. There we are. During this period, the Nephilim were formed. They were pure spirit. The Saurians reached a stage where the ruling races lived only for the satisfaction and the pleasure of mastering the moon fields. Send me a list anytime. Awesome. Shoot me an email or open up your community page or something, and I'll just make a post or whatever. The Saurians reached a stage where the ruling races lived only for the satisfaction and the pleasure of mastering the moon fields. What? Guided by a tyrannosaur prophet king named... I can't. Okay. Ooh. Now we're getting into talking dinosaurs. I'm sorry. I don't know how I feel about dinosaurs anymore. I used to love them. I don't really think I believe in them anymore, though. I know people are going to disagree with me. I have a real hard time in believing in things that I haven't physically experienced myself. I believe in ghosts because I physically have dealt with spirits or whatever, disembodied spirits. I've dealt with that stuff, so I know that certain things are taught maybe in error, not out of purpose, but just out of lack of knowledge. No dinos. The real dinos are running the world. Right. I don't think there are either. Somebody had a theory out there that what if the bones of the dinosaurs are actually bones of the original giant Nephilim, just put together differently to make these absurd looking things and hide the truth. Now, you could go one further and say, well, they could have just buried all the bones or destroyed them all, but can you really get rid of that many of them? And there were too many eyewitness testimonials back then. But it is worth thinking about. Corinthians 12 says, dinosaurs I question as well. I don't think you're the only one that questions the science on it. All dino bones are replicas. Yeah, well, again, that's what they tell us. They, at the Smithsonian, come running when you find bones. They take them, hijack them, keep them hostage, and then they make plaster fake bones for their displays because nobody's allowed to touch the real ones. But even the scientists then who request to touch the real ones aren't allowed to see the real ones. Only the people on their list that work at the Smithsonian are allowed to go into the back rooms where the alleged real authentic bones are kept. Doesn't that... None of that rings true to me. I'm sorry. None of that rings the bell of truth within me at all. Like, none of it. And I used to love them. I used to love dinosaurs. But, yeah, I don't think they're real, man. I think we have other things going on here, and they don't want us to know, like, there's quote-unquote magical things running around, because then we'd know we have power in our own selves with our own word, right? There's power in the word of God. Not just the word of God. We have voices he gave us, too. When we use our words in the wrong way, we are either cursing others, ourselves, or blessing others and ourselves. Interesting theory. Yeah, I used to like dinosaurs, too. Yeah, I read that a while ago when I was, like, first getting, like, before I even looked at Enoch, and I don't remember what theologian it was, but they said that, it's very possible that those beings were put together, in a different way, because they said, like, giraffes, for example, what else is, sloths. I don't think sloths are real, guys. Like, I know that sounds bad, but I don't think them things are real. I think it's mockery. Sloth, right? What's one of the 7 deadly sins? Slothfulness. I don't think, I was watching sloth videos, right? Just them. Okay, so, like, if you ever watched a puppet show, you know how the puppet's butt or whatever is always on the ground so that you don't see, like, the person's hands up its butt or whatever? Yeah, I mean like regular sloths. I don't think they're real. Yeah, I don't think sloths are real. If you pull up a video about them, and it will not show them without a trainer, somebody right next to them, right? Their eyes look like my teddy bear eyes. They look like plastic eyeballs. Like, I don't even, guys, I'm an artist. Like, I draw and I look at faces and I pay attention to that stuff. Their fingernails, their hair, no part of them looks real to me. And like I said, I just watched one day. That's all I watched was videos of sloths. Because I want to know, like, why I'm tired of being lied to. I've been lied to in my daily life. I've been lied to by the person that I gave my life to. I've been lied to by my teachers. I've been lied to by my mother. I've been lied to by my father. I have relatives, apparently, who were Freemasons because all the signs are there. But I never knew any of this. Penguins created by the Masons, black and white. I know people who have seen penguins in RSA. Yeah, penguins, I don't know, but I know Masons like penguins. I actually watch his channel, Penguin Z. A lot of those people that age are doing that now, too. My son did it to his name. He has an S in his name that he turned to a Z. Not sure what that's about, but I'm pretty sure, again, they do these things, man. Real, but generally created by the occult. Oh, I see what you mean genetically. Yeah, generally. Okay. Genetically. Yeah, that makes sense. Sloths, straight up, I don't think they're real at all. I think they're puppets. Like, I know that sounds bad. Pull a video up of a sloth. And then you guys tell me tomorrow or later today what you think. Because they always have a handler with them. Their arm's always around a handler. You never see it, like, climbing or really moving on its own. So yeah, I really think sloths are fake. Like, they're not genetically made. I think they're not existing. But yeah, I actually agree with you on that one, on the penguins, because I think Antarctica is hell. It's my opinion that Antarctica is Hades. That is my opinion. Okay, so where were we? I'm sorry, guys. The Saurians reached a stage where the ruling races lived only for the satisfaction and pleasure of mastering the moon fields, guided by the tyrant. I'm sorry, let me try to get through this sentence. Guided by a tyrannosaur prophet king named Mu. Oh my gosh. They decided to make a new celestial body, a new moon. Oi, can I do a face palm? Oh my gosh. There's so much to unpack right there. Like, I can't even. far as to say they weren't even made in the lab, more like a stuffed. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they were made in a lab either. I think they are legitimate stuffed animals. I don't think there is a real one at all. He actually pulled up the videos. That's awesome. But seriously, watch them. Like it drove me mad. I'm like, are they ever going to leave one of the sloths alone? Can I see one be born? Like what is happening with the sloth? Like, why can't... And what's funny is there's a lot of people in this area. You ask them what their favorite animal is, and they go right to sloth or cat. Man, I'm surrounded. Guys, I'm surrounded. I have no support here. Who has 3 toes? Does the comment section raise any concerns? Oh, and about sloths and stuff? Yeah, I've actually seen a couple where people are learning now, like, how to not get their comments deleted, so they're just asking things as questions instead of pointing them out. I'm going to head out. I already understand what you're... I support you, and I'll continue praying for you. You as well. Oh, I know you get it. Again, this is background. That's so funny to me. Tyrannosaur Prophet King. Okay, so they made a new moon. Wait a second. There's always people saying our moon is fake. I actually think our moon is a mirror, but that's just me. This black moon emitted a stronger magical field than the white moon, and so intensified and variegated their pleasures even more. Their ignorance was folly. They disregarded the disruptive effects which would occur as a result of modifying the balance of the magic fields upon the earth. The Nephilim, who had been born of the harmony of all 5 magic fields of fire, earth, air, water, and moon, awoke to it. Wait, hold please. Awoke to consciousness. And these days they called themselves the Calm because they were the masters of the elemental fields. They realized that the black moon threatened to terminate their existence by canceling the magical fields, and they resolved to stop the crazed Saurians. And they matured. As they matured, the Nephilim slowly acquired control of the magical fields and, with great care and preparation, united their 5 powers to destroy the black moon. It exploded, creating a gigantic cloud of planetary dust which damaged the field of Luna, the original moon. The Saurians, deeply dependent upon the lunar fields, couldn't resist both the destruction of the black moon and the destruction of the Luna field. They finally perished, leaving the Nephilim as sole conscious masters of the earth. Huh? So the Saurians, the dinosaur ones, did themselves in. Okay. So they're saying that that's why they all died. They killed themselves. They got greedy with their magic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What is it, a T-Rex with a wizard hat and cape? I can't. Oh, God help. Oh. Whew, sometimes I wonder where I'm living or what story I'm in this day. I just can't get that image out of my head. Did anyone ever watch that as a kid? I actually thought it was a really wholesome show. It was really sweet. With the dinosaurs, Dinotopia or something. I forget what it was called, but it was really sweet, and I actually really loved it. And all I can think of is like that. Or, I mean, you could get to the nasties and think of like Dark Crystal. And what are those things? Oh my God, they look like giant vultures, right? But they're kind of dinosaur-like, lizard-like as well. And they've always said that. They've always said that birds and dinosaurs, somehow, dinosaurs evolved from birds. I don't even want to know. I really don't. Because if birds aren't real, if that campaign is true, and they say that dinosaurs evolved from birds or birds evolved from dinosaurs, and dinosaurs weren't real, so does that make birds not real? Like, is that thing really a joke, or is it true? I went to the CIA YouTube channel, guys, and I'll share it again just so you guys see I'm not talking out my wahoo. Back in the day, they used to use pigeons as spies, right? They would pass notes and stuff. And it got more technologically advanced over the years throughout the Civil War and all that type of stuff. Tesla he actually used carrier pigeons. But it puts a whole new bent on things if somehow birds, in our time, I'm not saying birds are all fake or were never real or anything like that, but right now in our time with the way surveillance is and stuff, that would not surprise me a bit. Not at all. I'm sure some aren't real, but most appear to be. Some, yeah. Except for the one that follows me every day that I leave my house. Yeah, I'd agree with you. And I've seen deceased birds, right? And I've seen there's like that type of stuff. So, I'm not saying birds as a whole were never real. I'm saying there's a conspiracy theory, and I don't know how I feel about it. I've never looked into it. But it goes without whole birds aren't real campaign, which I thought was hilarious. And I thought it was done very cute. I don't know, again, wholesome. I really liked it. There's no swearing, none of that stuff. And it really makes you think and get out there into nature and look at things with a different eye. But the reason they say that they believe this, allegedly, is that in the 1970s or in the early 70s, more 72, again and over and over and over again, that they killed off the birds purposely and replaced them. I can't believe I'm saying this. And they replaced them. This is how the theory goes, that they replaced them with surveillance pigeons. Like that most birds since like 1970s, since we were born, our generation, that they're all fake. That's crazy. I actually have an ornament on my tree from Hallmark that is a bird. It's called Bird Watcher, right? And it's a bird with the binoculars. But we think of all these things and how they've used all these things over time. And it really makes me realize, like, wow, we've had this stuff, guys. They've had this surveillance. They've had this ghost hunting stuff. They've had this crap in our walls for our whole lives. Our whole lives, they've done this. And back in the day, heavy science like that archetypical science or empirical science that hadn't reached mainstream or the public yet was often called and confused with magic or witchcraft because you just didn't know how it worked. You didn't know how it functioned. That's why I think witch in the Bible has a totally different meaning than what we know for it today. This has almost went on long enough, and I've done nothing but talk to you guys, and I feel bad about that. So let me read a little bit more, and then we'll stop this one. And I'm going to do a different video. The next video is probably going to be on consent, and I'm going to try and do it face-to-face. And I'm also going to try and do the first video for striving to be a saint. So if you're interested in deeper spiritual searches, conversations, and even experiments possibly, that's a channel for you. But it's not for somebody who is, I don't want to insult anybody, who is new to the spirit realm, who is new in their walk, in their journey. It is not that type of channel. It's only going to be for the people that want to go deeply into these topics. And not these strange topics. I mean into spiritual, religious type of ancient texts. Like, my goal is to do whatever it is I need to do to make my spirit right, of course, but to also share that with everybody else too. But the goal should be to ascend, right? To get our bodies to the point where they are, and our spirits to the point where they can successfully transmute like Christ. Because he said we're supposed to strive to be like him. I'm not saying I'm God. I'm not saying you're God. But I am saying we are little g gods. We are each sovereign. And we are supposed to participate in our own redemption. So, how did this happen? So, they killed all them. Or they killed themselves. So, this is the life cycle of the Nephilim. Well, after the moon debacle and the dinosaur prophets killed themselves. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying that. The black moon cloud settled, but the disruptions to the magical fields had permanently deranged and polluted the lunar field. The Nephilim nonetheless carried on their maturation and developed their mastery of the four magical fields that remained intact. The fifth lunar field, although weakened, did not disappear altogether. That's cool. The life cycle of the Nephilim. The Nephilim were not born of carnal relations or chemical interaction, but each made for itself. Okay. Just keep reading, Jen. Keep reading. But each made for itself a physical body which was shaped by the natural elements which composed it. Thus were formed what humans would later call the old races. Today they are called salamanders, sylphs, elves, and satyrs, as well as other elemental creatures. Think of them as fae. We'll just put them all under the umbrella of fae, okay? To save time. I'm sorry. Some of this I can't believe. Sorry. The Nephilim set forth on the road towards unity and sophistication. They refined their use of magic, which was to them a tool and a form of energy. They invented the language called Enochian to communicate their magical knowledge. They studied their own life cycle and came to the conclusion that they were almost immortal. How do you observe yourself and say, okay, self, make this body for the self? Maybe I'm not matured spiritually enough because I don't know how you make your own body. But again, that's an alchemical process that maybe we're just not aware of yet. I'm trying to keep an open mind and not go off the rails here. All right. So they said they were almost immortal. A Nephilim is created when the 5 magic fields meet in one particular place, called a nexus, during a particular conjunction and enthronement of the planets. You see, all of these words, all of these biblical terms, as above, so below, they are in the skies too. And astrology is not the same as astronomy. We have every right to know where we live and why we are here and our place in the universe. God wants us to ask those questions. Anyone inhibiting your voice so that you cannot ask such questions or outright forbidding you is a foe, not a friend. And it's a shame that I have to say this, but people just don't know anymore. Okay? And I'll do my best never to condescend anybody because I'm pretty life stupid. I've made some pretty bonehead decisions because I simply didn't know better. And sadly, my parents didn't sit down and teach me the way I think I should have been taught certain things. Other people had that at family dinners. I didn't have family dinners. I was a child of divorce. So do you see how these things all contribute to a person, their knowledge base, and the soul of that person? Because remember, your soul is your body, mind, and spirit together. The sloth is, in my opinion, is real. I witnessed one. Yeah, I can imagine they'd be pretty crazy, scary with those long nails, but sorry, I don't think they're real. At least not now. None of the ones I've seen are real. Where are we? These magic fields are never of the same intensity at different times. The strongest of the fields is dominant and determines the shape. Very docile. Because they feared the animal very... Oh, well, obviously, I'm sure that's where they got their name, sloth. Sloth means lazy. Where was it? Okay, so the Nephilim materializes into a basic elemental shape upon which it builds as it increases its knowledge of the magic fields. So I guess the building of its own body is a process. That's hard for me to envision, like a being making its own body. And what I don't like about that is it lacks community effort, to be honest with you. Every soul here needs each other. We are dependent upon each other. But we are each individually important as well, and genuine and unique in our own ways. And see, this is where I think it really comes through that these beings lack proper love. I was going to say emotion, but love is not an emotion. These beings lack proper soul. They lack heart to really even understand what they're saying. It's all very scientific, like very clinical, right? It's very clinical to these beings. It's like very, oh, this is what it is, and that's what that is, and what do you mean? Almost like a woman talking to a man, but in the most extreme sense, right? The most feminine of women and the most masculine of men. If you go to those extremes again, this is kind of what I know this because I've dealt with them. They are this way. They're very archaic. They're very, they don't even recognize any of it either. They're very arrogant, and it's, if you're somebody who's sensitive to these things and to how people behave and their emotions being around you, if that affects you, you know it when you're around one of them. You get uncomfortable. The hair on your neck stands up. I get itchy. I'm not sure what that's about. I do. I get kind of itchy. And there's a lot of things happening right now. I'm just going to be honest. There's a lot of things out there that are not human. And it's happening a lot right now. And I don't know. People have said a couple of things to me. I don't want to say anything because fear is not something I push, nor is panic. But there's not a whole lot of us regular folks left. If I am regular, again, maybe I'm just not like everybody. I don't know. It's just disheartening every day to see people that still want to be a trickster instead of just telling the truth, that still want to lie instead of telling the truth and helping to heal themselves and the other party. Wanting to lie or deceive just because they've been promised something, whether that's a set of braces, because yes, I saw somebody, a new basement floor, whether it's because you don't want to work anymore and you just want paid off, maybe you want a Beamer, maybe you have surgery coming up. This is what they do. This is how they get people with them, regular people, regular human beings, to lie to their fellow man, is promising them things. But it's never an equal relationship. They will always abuse the power that they have over you. Always. Always, I know this. And they will always, if they have power over you, that means you've given them, you've assigned them your sovereignty. And that's what the next video is going to be about. But I don't know if it'll be an upload or a live stream. I have not decided yet. I might make it today and upload it tonight-ish. But we have to go over a few things regarding consent in this time. I don't think there's anything where I always want to be a commodity to my community. I don't have a problem with that word. My problem is human resources. We are seen as resources. We're not resources, man. And there's the difference. I want to be a commodity to my community because I'm valuable for the skills that I have, but just for being me. Right? Guess what? You don't have to earn the right to live. You're here. You live, right? People shouldn't be having to fight for their basic survival. At this point, everybody's basic survival should be covered, and we should be concerned with people evolving and maturing, because we got a whole couple of generations out there now that are totally, lost. We are to our owners. I'm not saying we're not commodities. I always wanted to be a commodity, though. I use that in interviews. I want to be a commodity to the company. I want to be useful. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be those things. Is that reality, though? I don't know which question you're posing that to. But resources as in numbers, right? We're just numbers to them. We're just a resource. And the second that resource breaks, chuck it. It's no good no more. Throw it away. We treat plastic better than we treat human beings. We want to throw people away, but recycle plastic. That right there should show how warped our own principles can and have in a lot of cases become. I'm not saying you specifically or me specifically. I'm not making a blanket statement and saying this group or that group, but I am saying most of society at this point. Objectified without informed consent. Absolutely. You're a thing to them, right? You're a thing to be bought, sold, used. That's it. Resource. You're not unique. Just for being you, just for being born. We look at things backwards, though. Buddhists prepare their whole lives for death. Their whole life, they prepare for death. And when they die, they have a sending off. It's almost like a party. That is a healthier way to look at things. But again, I think we've been fooled in part by what death really is and what reincarnation is. Why do you think they're using that word reset? They want to reset you. Because too many people are waking up to too many of we're noticing things aren't right, right? When you're busy, you don't notice that people kind of don't look like you look. Or that person's eyes are a little bigger than they're supposed to be. And oh my gosh, is that person a reptilian? Nah, that's not what I saw. I gotta get to work. That was just somebody, I just looked out of the corner of my eye. I must have saw a poster. You're in the city, you're in a rush, trying to get to work. It's real easy to miss things. Real easy. I didn't start noticing most of these things until I was not working. Until my kids were grown. And I think that's That's the burden a lot of women will carry, is they are not able to work on their spiritual maturity and evolution until their children are grown. And I think that is done by design. You know, they call us containers. That's all we are to them, is containers. When I think of Nephilim, I think of Bigfoot, hairy monster type beings. The originals, anyway. Other people think of reptilians. The snake in the garden was a reptilian. Now I've learned that we are all kind of different, and I don't really care. Society is viewed as having value or failing to have value. Doesn't make it right, though, Evie. You know how I feel about that stuff. Doesn't make it right. And again, I'm trying to look at the glass half full now, because I realize I do create part of my reality, at least part of it. So I am staying to the good side of things right now. And if I'm ignoring people or I'm not replying, again, I apologize, but I'm trying to really monitor and change what I allow in my eye gates and my ear gates, because I need to be one of those people that radiates at a higher frequency. Because I have too many people around me that I care about. I think that, okay, so let's say my frequency is at, and I'm just going to make up a random number. I'm not going to make it, we'll say 472, because that's where you're supposed to listen to music or whatever. So we'll say I vibrate at 472, right? If I'm vibrating at 472, but everybody around me is at that LED 66, what do you think will happen? I really don't like that word liability, and I'll touch back on that in a second. If you are vibrating at a higher frequency than those around you, either you will bring theirs up or they will bring yours down. I am trying to vibrate at such a high frequency right now that those around me and anyone I interact with can only be brought up. What I'm trying to do is admirable. So certain people keep sending me certain things, I'm just not going to reply to you. And then I just won't, eventually I'll just block you. Evie, I understand that. I get it. Like, I'm not arguing with you about that, but that's not how things should be. And because I'm passionate about that, if I come off as being mad to you, I don't know what else to say. We are not liabilities just because somebody gets old or somebody gets sick. And I will not agree with that, and I will never come into agreement with that. And you guys know how I feel about this on this channel, too. Don't be trying to get me to come into agreement with something that I'm against, because it's not going to happen. And this is a really good lesson for manipulation of free will, of how conversation can get you in the wrong place. You have to pay attention to the words people are using with you, and make sure that if you come into agreement with something, you know exactly what you're coming into agreement with, and you know that you are in agreement with it. Because a lot of people are giving passive consent without even knowing they're doing it. And I don't think that's just. I don't think a just God even recognizes passive consent. And I think that the men who are manipulating the consent of others and the free will of others, they're going to have a very hefty fine to pay. Whether they believe in hell or not, I don't care if you believe in the place, but you're still going to have consequences to face. Natural law says that, whether you believe in a maker or not. Natural law is real and has been proven over and over again. I will never say individuals in society are nothing but a resource and are a liability if they age out or if they get hurt or if they get ill. I'm not going to be that person. I'm never going to be that person. We are all valuable. We each have value, every single one of us. And I'm going to mention this, and then I'm going to end this video. I will get into the rest. This will take one more video at the most with this topic. The next upload will be on consent. I don't want to end this on a bad note, but I will say, I know exactly who my enemies are out there, and I've been very kind to all of you. I have not said nothing nasty. I have not made videos about anyone, and I'm not going to do that type of thing because that's not who I am. But I'm very passionate about what I do here. And if I do not agree with you, I will voice that. And I will not be manipulated or swayed. into anyone else's position unless I want to be. Unless I've been educated and have more experience under my belt. Maybe my mind will change tomorrow about a lot of things. So yeah, I know that's how society sees it. And I don't even like to say society because we're talking about individuals. So I try to say system to depersonalize it. We know there's bad guys out there. But I'm sick of the pictures of Soros and the Rockefellers getting passed around. You want to talk about dinosaurs? Those guys are dinosaurs. Those guys probably aren't even a thing. They just pass those. They got to have a villain. They got to have a face to give it. Because these people are right beside us. The ones who run this stuff, these half-blooded Nephilims, I don't know how to say it PC-wise, sorry. They are beside us. The elitists are beside us. They stay in control because they never show their real face. People don't know who they are. They don't even tell the people that they marry. Imagine that. Waking up one day and saying, holy shit, my whole life is a lie. So if I sound kind of funny at times, and if I won't bend on certain things, there's a reason why. I know my enemies. I know you all very well. I just love you. And I pray for you. And I do whatever I can to try and shine some light on you. So maybe it'll rub off. Because I tell you what, I'm filthy on my own. I'm pretty nasty on my own. And I'm having a really hard time with self-forgiveness. But I will never, ever say that another human being is disposable. I won't do that. And I can't agree with that. And so if I put things in a different way, or I disagree with you, or I get kind of passionate, it's not you per se. I don't even tell you who the bad guys are, and I know who some of them are. I will not put a face to this. Because we've had enough of the blame game and people pointing fingers. You want things to get better yourself. And I know it's cliche and people don't want to hear it. You know why? Nobody wants to work anymore. They think of work and they think I got to go get up early, 9 to 5. My whole life revolves around that. I got to go to bed at a certain time. Got to get up at a certain time. Got to dress at a certain... Nobody wants to do that anymore. Nobody. None of us want to do that anymore. If the elitists aren't doing it, why should we have to do it? If they get knowledge, why shouldn't we get that knowledge? Nobody wants to do this stuff anymore. And I've said it before, but God has given me a word I'm going to have to bring. And I'm going to have to pray on it before I make a video on it. Moses told them, let my people go. I've said it more than once. Good things are not coming for those who oppress others or manipulate the free will of others. You will not get any good thing. If I can ask God and just say, hey, God, can I get rain tomorrow? I don't really feel like walking around the town for exercise. If every time I ask for rain, if every time I ask for sun, I get it, what do you think is going to happen to people who are truly serious narcissistic abusers out there? What do you think is going to happen when I pray that maybe those people get the justice that's coming to them? This is not a joke. I've risked my whole life to bring this information to people. And I try to present it in a secular way so that I can reach the most people out there. The next video is going to be on consent. It's going to be a lesson on consent. And I'm going to try and write out and display real world examples so that you know how to better apply and wield your own agency, choice, and free will. But I'm not taking certain things on my channel anymore. That's why I nuked the other one, and this one's here. And, you know, it is what it is. We will go with where the research takes us, where the information takes us, and then at a certain point we have to decide, is this truth or is this not truth? That's where discernment and vigilance comes in. I wanted you to know about Nephilim because they are very unemotional beings. They are very analytical beings, and they do not... They're very self-serving. And they will manipulate your free will. They say they believe in consent, but almost everything that comes out of their mouth is a lie. And you can believe what you want to believe. Instead of Nephilim, insert the word narcissist, and this information will still help you. All right, I got other stuff to do. I am working on stuff for a couple of videos I'm really excited about. But yes, I might need a little help from Dion and a couple others. So be patient. There is more stuff coming. But yeah, this is all to lead into a lesson on consent. And hopefully I've found some more hard to find information on these beings. And I'll leave it there for right now because I gotta fix a few things. But I think it should be useful to people. And like I said, if you want to replace the word Nephilim with narcissistic abuser, same difference. Same thing. I love you guys. Stay blessed. Have a great day. And watch, I'm going to do a quick record of the numbers video because I wanted you guys to see what Dion did for us and how some of these numbers fit with some of these words. All right, guys. Love you. More soon.